analysts loosely refer to as the Reform era. The opening chapter sets the context by laying out China's general political economy arrangements. Chapters 2 through 4 describe the sectors of economic activity: agriculture, industry, and the construction of cities and infrastructure that were successively most crucial to China's economic development story between 1980 and 2010. Chapters 5 through 8 analyze what one might call the nervous system of the economy, the organization of business enterprises, and the fiscal, financial, and energy systems. Chapters 9 through 11 attempt to bring the discussion down to a more human level and present what are likely to be the most pressing issues of the coming decade: changes in demographics and the labor market, the emerging consumer economy, and the social problems most likely to upset the central political bargains, namely inequality and corruption. The last two chapters return to the stratosphere to take on the two large questions that dominate current public debates about China. Chapter 12 examines China's chances of making a successful transition from the resource mobilization type of growth it has enjoyed since 1979 to the resource efficiency type of growth that is now required. The final chapter assesses what China's rise to economic power means for the rest of the world. To fit all this material into the confines of a book succinct enough to enlighten the listener without burying her under a hail of data and qualifications, I have naturally had to simplify a great deal, although I hope not in a way that will cause specialists to cringe at every moment. A particular peril of this sort of work is that it can leave the impression that China's economic development has been the working out of a master plan designed in advance and supervised at every point by wise officials with an exact knowledge of the consequences of all their actions. This is, of course, absurd. China's economic story was created by fierce battles between rival groups, decisions taken under emergency conditions with imperfect information, the belated and partial rectification of past errors, and the constant swirl of 1 billion people seeking personal advantage. In public, Chinese officials like to describe the economic reform process as crossing the river by feeling for the stones. The metaphor is accurate but overly pastoral. In private, an official once admitted that economic reform is more like walking a tightrope over a bottomless pit, and the rope behind you is on fire. It is worth bearing that picture in mind as you listen. 1. Overview: China's political economy. What is China's political system, and how does it affect the economy? China is a bureaucratic, authoritarian, one-party state, in principle highly centralized, but in practice substantially decentralized. Understanding China's unique and resilient political system is a prerequisite for making sense of the country's economic past, present, and future. So, to begin, we will examine the three main features of the governance system in turn. First, China's system is bureaucratic authoritarian. This means that it is not a democracy like the United States and most other high-income developed countries. But it also means that it is not a dictatorship, that is, a country ruled by a single person or small group of persons, in which the personal authority of the dictator or junta supersedes that of all bureaucratic institutions. Types of dictatorial states include the purely personal dictatorships in many African countries, military juntas such as those that ruled Brazil and other Latin American nations in the 1960s and 1970s, or Myanmar until recently, and hereditary quasi-monarchies within communist states, of which the main examples are the Castro family in Cuba since 1959 and the Kim family in North Korea since 1946. China's system, as it has evolved since 1978, differs markedly from all these dictatorial types. Ultimate authority resides